Some people called it baby snatching. And today, the Catholic Church has apologised for its forced adoption policy of the 1950s, 60s and 70s, when 150,000 Australian women, mainly single mothers, were made to hand over their babies to parents deemed more suitable. The apology has been prompted by an investigation by an ABC reporter and also by a Senate inquiry. Reporter Jane Margetts is in Newcastle on the mid-coast of New South Wales. So, Jane, what did the Catholic Church say today?
Well, Ros, Catholic Health Australia has this morning apologised to the mothers, fathers and children who fell victim to this forced adoption policy of the 50s, 60s and 70s. It's acknowledged what it calls the ongoing devastating impact that it's had on these people, and it's admitted that the practice of forced adoption was widespread in maternity hospitals across Australia. Catholic Health was keen to point out, of course, though, that this policy is no longer tolerated under today's law, and it says that it's offering support for the women who are affected in the form of counselling and also in the form of helping them get access to medical records so that they can discover more about the truth of what happened to them. Now, here's a little of what Martin Laverty from Catholic Health Australia had to say to me this morning.
It was a common practice that was thought to be in the best interest of mother and child, where a young mother without husband, that the child be placed in adoption for the best interests of mother, for the best interests of the child. Today we recognise that those practices were misguided. Today we recognise those practices caused ongoing pain and suffering to mothers, to children and to families. And to those people we say sorry.
So, Jane, tell us a little bit more about the process of forced adoption.
Well, Ros, more than 150,000 women had their babies forcibly taken away from them under this process of forced adoption. Many of them have described to me how they were quite literally drugged and shackled to the bed as they gave birth. They say that their babies were then whisked away from them out of sight, and while they were still under the influence of drugs, they were forced to sign adoption papers, and many of them never saw their children again. Now, they also say that during this whole process they were convinced, or persuaded, should I say, that this was the best thing for them and this was the best thing for their children. And many of the children, of course, were adopted out to married couples who at the time were deemed to be more suitable parents.
And Jane, what's been the reaction to the apology from the women and the families affected, briefly?
Well, I think it's important to bear in mind many of these women say they will never get over what happened to them. More than 50% of them didn't go on to have any more children, and they say now that, quite frankly, they're insulted by the apology. What they want is compensation, what they want is legal action to be pursued against the individuals that were responsible.
Jane, thank you.
Thanks.